This is Phil Dixon coming to you with another edition of This Day in African American Baseball History, or This Day in Black Baseball History, however you want to term it. And on this broadcast, what we do is we come in and we talk about historic events that happen related to African American baseball history that occurred on this date. Of course, today's date is November 17th, 2025. So we want to talk about some things that are interesting. Now, if you've never joined me before, I always give this little introduction. I give some historic events, and then I give commentary following those events that come from my more than 45 years of being a historian on this topic. So if this is what you kind of enjoy, that'd be great. And then also, this time of year, it's hard to really get good baseball information. You can go on the baseball channel, you can watch reruns of old baseball games. But I know for me, I always like to read about baseball this time of year. And some of my best research was always done in this time of year because I had that desire for baseball, but just couldn't find it. And of course, if you're in the Midwest where I am, it gets too cold and, the kids aren't playing baseball at all. So you don't get much baseball. We do have the Negro Leagues Museum here in Kansas City, of which I am a co-founder. So I do get a chance to go down there and talk with baseball fans. But for the most part, this is going to be my hot stove area right here. So, guys, if you like this kind of history, I appreciate you kind of joining in with me and staying with me. I'm new to this YouTube. For years, I had watched other people contemplated about coming on, and then I just looked and saw such horrible information or information that was thin. We just say it didn't have much substance to it. And these were people who maybe had read a few books, maybe taken an interest in a player, maybe in their area or something like that. And so what I would do is I would, for the most part, um, decide that it's time to come on and do some talking. So if you are interested in this type of history, please come on and join me, and we should have a good time. Now, there are going to be some people out here. I see some interesting people that's coming in. So this is interesting. So anyway, we're going to jump on here. Guys, if you like baseball, you're in the right place. If you don't like baseball, you're in the wrong place. So anyway, we're going to go and we're going to do this again, all right? So let's go and get started. So this is November the 17th, 1912. We're going to go back that far. Bill Lindsay pitched a four-hitter through 6 1/3 innings, hitting four batters with four strikeouts. He had four strikeouts before yielding to relief pitcher Bill Gatewood in a 7-2 American Giants loss to the San Diego Bears. Bill Monroe added a pair of singles and stole a base in a game witnessed by the largest crowd in San Diego baseball history. That's 1912. So they're writing that this is the largest crowd. Of course, they have a National League team there now, but in 1912, they said this is the largest crowd. Now, what's interesting is they don't give us a number. So we don't know what that it meant, okay? So, but we know it was a large crowd. So what can I take away from this? Well, first of all, I talked about Bill Monroe. Bill Monroe had a pair of singles. Now, Bill Monroe is going to pass away 2 years from that date. But Saul White, one of the great African-American baseball managers, and who is currently a member of the Cooperstown Hall of Fame in New York there, he said that Bill Monroe was the greatest baseball player that ever lived. Now, you got to think about that. Saul White, who saw many baseball players, said that he thought Bill Monroe was the greatest of them all. Now, how many people know anything about Bill Monroe? Bill Monroe, he's buried in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Pretty moderate grave site, nothing fancy. But Bill Monroe, he was like the Deion Sanders of the turn of the century. So he was colorful, he could talk, he could play, he could back up his talk. You know, this guy hit home runs, he stole bases, he had a great arm, and I've written so much about Bill Monroe, and I have an updated book of the 1905 Philadelphia Giants coming out. It's going to be a revised edition, and I will be talking a lot about Bill Monroe. So you guys who follow my books, have my books, you might want to pick this one up when I finish it, and I'll be working on it this evening. Yeah, and I will also say this: when I decided to do these YouTube broadcasts, one of the reasons I hesitated because I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to come on daily and talk to you guys, but it's not going to be successful unless you do come on daily. I don't know if I have one of my books around here or not. I have to show a cover of one. But if you go online to Google and you Google Phil S. Dixon, you can see all my work, books that go back to 1992. My Negro Baseball League's Photographic History not only won a Sabre Macmillan Research Award, but it also won a Best Baseball Book of the Year, 1992. And my last book, it came out in 2023, it won the Best of Illinois History Award. So, guys, I try to be the real deal out here. And so, but I talk to baseball fans. Occasionally I'll get someone on and they're not a baseball fan and they'll ask me a strange question or whatever. So, but I try to tell them this is the baseball. This is the place you come if you want to learn something about baseball. This is where you need to be. All right. So let's go to the next facts. Let's go. November 17, 1927. Okay. Now remember, when I talk about baseball this time of year, sometime I have to talk about baseball players that were playing in other sports. So here we go. So the Philadelphia Warriors of the American Basketball League. Now this is going to be November 17, 1927. Opened their 1927 season with a 44-20 win over the New York Renaissance team in Philadelphia. Fast Jenkins scored 6 points. He was 1 for 3 from the free throw line. And that's that. So they're opening up their 1927 season. The New York Renaissance. New York Renaissance, as far as playing basketball, they were legendary like the like the Harlem Globetrotters were. They're legendary. And at that time, everybody was playing serious basketball. So these are the teams that were not in these leagues, but they were the teams that were barnstorming across the nation. So we have a person like Fats Jenkins. Now, I don't know who you know, if any of you've ever heard of Fats Jenkins, but Fats Jenkins, how about this? He is a member of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 2021. And but Jenkins, at the time that he retired in 1939, was considered the fastest. Now, when they talk about fastest, they're talking about all-around player. That was another way that they termed they said he was the fastest player or whatever. But they're not talking about speed. They're talking about ability. And so they said he was basically the greatest basketball player in the world. That was 1939. Fats Jenkins. How many of you ever heard of Fats Jenkins, right? But this is why we do these broadcasts, because we want to introduce you to new people, not just the people we've heard about through all the ages. I mean, when I first started following basketball or following baseball, following football, and I would pick up on the history, I would hear about people like Crazy Legs Elroy Hurst. You would hear about these guys. In basketball, you used to hear about George Mikan. But there were so many great African-American baseball players that just weren't in the books. And so I've been spending my lifetime trying to change that history so these guys become recognized. And so the past 45 years, I've made my contribution, and many other people are now on that, we might say they're on the boat, and they're making contributions as well. So anyway, yeah, a lot of these guys were really great all-around athletes. And so it's my pleasure, especially in November and December and January and February, to talk about all these guys who played baseball but did other things. So that's one of the nice things about it. All right, so let's go to November 17th, 1929. All right, and I will answer you some of your questions in a moment. So, November 17th, 1929, pitching in relief of Chet Brewer and Andy Cooper. Matter of fact, Andy Cooper is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame in New York. Wilbur Buller Rogan, who is also a member of the Hall of Fame, tossed 6 innings of reliefs and allowed one hit and no runs in the Philadelphia Royal Giants 14-4 loss to Shell Oil in Los Angeles at Los Angeles White Sox Park. Now, the Philadelphia Royal Giants were an African American team that would go out to California. They would recruit various players from teams, so they would be almost sometimes like an all-star team. Many of the Kansas City Monarchs, quite a few of Hilldale players. Later on, many players from the Nashville Elites, they would go out and they would play baseball in the wintertime. They were the only black team in the league. And so sometimes San Diego would be in the league. The White Kings, which were sponsored by a soap company, Joe Peroni's All Stars, and on this time they're playing Shell Oil. And Shell Oil, man, they had a great day that day, and they pretty much crushed them. Chet Brewer, who I happen to know, started pitching that particular game, and Brewer's day did not go very well. He allowed 11 runs, 5 hits in 1 2/3 inning of pitching, and he got the loss. Now, in getting the 4 runs that they had, you had Dink Mothell. Dink Mothell, great second baseman from Topeka, Kansas, who got me started in this. Dink Mothell, he had a pair of hits on the day. Newt Allen, who was also with the Kansas City Monarchs from Kansas City, originally born in Austin, Texas. He had a pair of hits on the day. And Leroy Taylor. Leroy Taylor, I interviewed his daughter. Actually, I interviewed Mothell and Newt Allen, and I interviewed Taylor's daughter. But Taylor was a great football player at Wiley University. I've talked about him in the last month or so. But he also had a pair of hits. And Biz Mackey, who was also a member of the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame, hit a home run for the Royal Giants, Philadelphia Royal Giants, in that losing effort. So, but I'd like to talk about, there were so many great games played, and African American teams, believe it or not, they won a disproportionate number of these games. However, they didn't win all the games. So I try to talk about all of these games because this is baseball. Guys, you love baseball like I love baseball. You find all of this interesting, all right? And I'm going to go and do 2 more. But before I do that, I'm going to say hello to some couple of people, all right? So let me jump in here. Okay, I got the Cincinnati Toast Crunch. So he's saying hello, and okay, I appreciate you joining me today. And he did also ask me about, I didn't really know about baseball growing up. Okay, I understand that. Hey, it's never too late. Baseball, the greatest game ever created. Double Duty Ratcliffe used to tell me, he said, if God made something better than a woman in baseball, he kept it to himself. So just remember that. Okay, so, and the interesting thing about baseball, you don't have to play it to love it. The history of baseball is simply fascinating because it's truly Americana. If you want to learn something about America, guys, you've got to follow baseball. And you can follow baseball going back to the 1800 guys, and it'll show you how this country formed. It'll show you what's good about this country. It'll show you what's bad about this country. Just through looking at baseball. It's amazing, simply amazing what baseball can do. He said he only heard about Shawnee Ohtani. Okay, well, he's a current player, but hey, you follow this broadcast, you're going to hear about a whole bunch of guys like Shawnee Ohtani, Bullet Rogan, Martin Diego, the famous Cuban player. I mentioned Rogan this afternoon here, but you're going to hear about some more people. Harry Buckner. Harry Buckner is vastly underrated. Okay, so you can hear about those. All right, and we have 100% plant-based black man. All right. Thanks for joining. I said peace and blessings. I remember you. That's a unique name. I can't get past that name, so I'll remember you. If you guys have a like a Facebook page or something like that, let me know. I'll follow you too. All right. Hey, we'll have fun with this. Okay. And let's see. That gives you a little bit, and I may see some other people may join. Guys, if you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and subscribe. So I'm down to my last couple of things that I'm going to do. So I'm going to talk about an article that was appeared in the November 17th, 1953 Sikeston Daily Standard. And the newspaper reported that 6'2", 195-pound Elston Howard, who formerly played with the Kansas City Monarchs and who had recently signed a New York Yankees contract, has a father that lived nearby. Now, I happen to know this story from firsthand because I presented in Sikeston down that area, so I'm going to tell you about that. But so it turns out that Elston Howard is signed, and he is the son of Travis B. Howard. And Travis was the principal of O'Bannon High School near Sikeston, Missouri. Now, in that area, you've got New Madrid, Missouri, Sikeston, Missouri. Actually, not too far from there, I'm trying to think the name of the town right now. Oh, shucks. I'll call it, oh man, I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me in just a second because I was thinking about another guy that you heard. You know what? I'll tell you what his name is. You heard of Rush Limbaugh, right? So Rush Limbaugh comes out of that area, and the town that he came from, when I went there to speak, I did some research, and he had about 4 members of his family that played baseball against Negro League teams going back into the 1940s and the 50s. And I don't know why I can't think of the name of that town, but it's all right in there together, right around Sikeston and New Madrid and this other town. Oh man, you know, sometimes you have so much in your head you can't just recall it all. But I'm gonna call it before I get off of this broadcast, right? You watch. Okay, so they reported that now Travis B. Howard is Elston Howard's dad. He lives down in that area, and Elston Howard's dad was in St. Louis, and his mother and dad had gotten a divorce 18 years before that. And so Elston would come back and forth. Sometime he would spend the summers down around that area, Sykes, New Madrid, and then he would come back. But he went to high school in St. Louis, where his mother lived, which was Vashon High School, where he was a basketball player, he was a football athlete, he was a track man, and he also played baseball around the city. Actually, there was one time that he went to a tryout with the St. Louis Cardinals. And when he went to the tryout for the St. Louis Cardinals, what they did was they looked at all the players, and there were white and black players there, and they never followed up with any of the black players. So the Cardinals could have had Elston Howard before the Yankees. So that would have helped the Cardinals out great deal. But racism and prejudice played into all of this. So these are stories that I'm able to tell. And I spent a lot of time in St. Louis. Got to know Dickie Ballantyne over the Matthew Dickey Boys Club, which was really famous when I first started going to St. Louis and doing research. So, but yeah, Elston Howard should have been signed originally by the St. Louis Cardinals, but they refused to give him a call back. They didn't want any black people at that time, and so that allowed him to end up joining the Kansas City Monarchs because he was still in high school. So he came to Kansas City Monarchs. From there, he ended up in the Yankees organization, played for the Kansas City Blues, and of course, he made history as the first black person to put on a Yankees uniform. And I can tell you some great stories about that. I interviewed Hank Bauer, who was on the team. Hank told me some great stories. One of these days, I'm going to tell some of these stories. I don't want to try to tell everything in one broadcast because I try to keep it down to 20 minutes, guys. But anyway, Elston Howard. But let me tell you one story about Elston Howard because I spoke in that area. And it's an interesting thing, when you go into some of these towns, I would see a lot of black people. And I'm just giving you the facts, guys. I would see a lot of black people. I would drive around. They have a famous restaurant down there called Lambert's, home of the throw rolls. where actually when you go in a restaurant and you say, hey, can I have a roll? They throw it to you, you know. So anyway, I was down in there speaking, and even though I saw a number of black people in town, no black people came to my presentation. It was a room full of white guys, and a lot of these guys, they were just interested in baseball, man. And so they came out, and we had a good time talking about baseball. But they told me the story about Elston Howard. They said Elston Howard playing with the Yankees, and they had won the World Series. So he comes down to Sykeston, and he wants to buy his dad a car. So he goes in the local dealership just dressed like a regular person. They don't know who he is. He's a black guy. He walks around and looking for a car for his dad in the new car dealership. And then nobody comes to help him. Nobody comes and say, can I help you? I got another telephone going on. Just ignore it. But nobody comes to ask him, can they help him? And so in that particular case, he walks around, doesn't get any help. And so finally, after 15, 20 minutes just walking inside the dealership, no one talking to him, guy comes up and say, can I help you? And he said, yeah, I'd like to buy a car. And he said, I'm going to pay cash. And the guy said, cash? He said, and then Elston said, well, you know what? I really like this car here and I like your price. I want to buy two of them. The guy says, two cars? And he said, I'm going to pay cash for both of them. He said, I want one from me, and I want one from my dad. And the guy's trying to figure out, who is this person want to pay cash for brand new cars? Turns out he went back and wrote up the paper. It was Elston Howard. And he bought a car for himself and a car for his dad after no one at the white dealership would give him service. That was in Sykeston, Missouri. Those guys told me that story and many more stories. And I will also say this, a lot of people don't know this, but Elston Howard, once again, he lived in St. Louis. Now, there was another guy right around New Madrid whose dad was in Chicago, and he went back to New Madrid. And so this guy would come from Chicago to New Madrid to see his dad in the summer times, but his dad lived there, and that player was Kirby Puckett. So Kirby Puckett and Elston Howard's dads were right there in an area right together. So, and both of those guys go on to have fantastic major league careers. And I happen to know Kirby Puckett too. And so I just feel honored that I, as a baseball fan, I got to rub shoulders with some of these guys and talk about their history and actually know that I can tell you about their history. These are things you wouldn't know because this is not information that's in any book. I don't think I've written it because I can't write all the things that I've experienced, at least not yet. But one of these days, I hope to write my memoir about all the things that I've seen. But some of these stories might not make it there, but at least they can make it here. So that kind of does that, okay? So that's Elston Howard, and okay, that's all I want to say. That was printed in the Daily Standard, November 17, 1953, and of course, you're getting some commentary from me. All right, some people who actually passed away on this date. I won't go into them very deeply. Maybe I'll come back maybe later, who knows, and I'll do something more. But let's see, we have Johnny Davis, played for Newark, a great baseball player, died in 1982, ruptured shoulders with Johnny Davis and some of his family. Casey Jones died in 1998 in Memphis, Tennessee. Casey Jones had a son that played quarterback for the New York Jets behind Joe Namath. And a lot of people don't know that. And also Ulysses Red, he was with the Birmingham Black Barons. He died in 2002. So there's just a few things that happened on this day, November 17th, through the ages. And of course, today is November 17, 2025, guys. And I want to thank everybody who stayed with me for as long as you did. If you come for a couple of minutes, if you're here for the entire broadcast, well, I tip my hat to you. So thank you for everyone, and I will be back again tomorrow for sure. If you like what I'm doing here, guys, go ahead and make sure you subscribe. We want to keep building this network. And be honest with you, I would love to have 1,000 people going into spring training of this year. And so, and that by the time we get to spring training, I'll be talking about even more people. But I try to keep my broadcast down to 20 minutes if I can. And I'm at 25 minutes right now. There's a little bit longer than I want to go. But we try to jam pack these lives with information that you can use, information that's fun, and information that will make you a baseball fan and help you to enjoy one of the greatest games to ever come out of America, and that's baseball. Thank you, guys. Have a good day until we talk again. All right, this is Phil Dixon signing off with This Day in African American Baseball History. Bye.